Well, that's it. We've come to the end. This is the last video in the training course. There's one more after this that explains the working with children check for those of you who need to get that done. But otherwise, I hope that from this point onwards, whether or not you choose to join us here at Top of the Class, either way, I certainly hope that you found this training very helpful. Now, keep in mind that only around about 10% of all applicants that we receive even get to this stage. So that means that I certainly feel confident you'll make a good tutor. The only thing is now we need to know that you know what to do. So below this video, you'll see a little assessment quiz. There's about 20 questions for you to fill in. Some of them are multiple choice, some of them are short answer questions. If you can also provide us with your current availability, and of course if that changes, you'll let us know specifically. The other thing that I have found that increases the rate of which parents are likely to accept and go ahead with a tutor or not, based on the profile when we give it to them, is if they have a really good picture. So if you have a photo of yourself that looks both friendly but also professional, then by all means please upload that and send it to us so that we can use that to show to prospective clients. And yeah, I've really found that's probably the number one thing that increases the likelihood that they'll be happy to go ahead with you. Okay, so let me explain to you what the next part of the process is. Once you complete the assessment underneath and click submit, it will then take you to another page that will explain the very last part of the process, which is the working with children check or blue card. Depends on which state of Australia that you're in. Otherwise, when we receive your completed assessment, the next step is we'll send you out a parcel in the post which will contain a few things. I'll run you through them now. The first thing will be just an employment contract, which is a whole bunch of legal mumbo jumbo. It's important that you read that, fill in the details, sign it, and then send it back with a bunch of other paperwork. It will also contain a stamped self-addressed envelope, so you can send it back here to the office at Kings Langley. The other thing it will contain is a tax file declaration form. Now this is pretty straightforward stuff. If you've ever had a job before, you're probably familiar with this form. The most important question to remember, though, is question 8. Do you want to fill out the tax-free threshold? Now I'll put a picture of this up on the screen so that you can see that. Now, technically, if you already have another job, and this is your second job, then you are supposed to tick no to question 8. Be aware, however, that if you do tick no to question 8, what will happen is when you receive your pay slip each week from us, you will be taxed at the highest rate. So if you click yes, however, then you have to be earning quite a lot before you go over the tax-free threshold. So just be aware of that. Maybe speak to a tax agent or an accountant if you're uncertain. Okay, now in addition to the employment contract and the tax file declaration form, the third thing that you need to remember to send back to us, and this is the thing that a lot of people forget to remember, is when you're sending back your paperwork in the self-addressed envelope, we need to receive JP certified photocopies of 100 points of ID, so a driver's license and birth certificate, for example. Don't send us back your originals, obviously. Send us photocopy, but needs to be JP certified. So remember, the employment contract, tax file declaration, and 100 points of JP certified ID. The only other thing will be working with children check, which will be explained on the next page, but that will depend on which state of Australia that you're in. Okay, so once we receive all your completed paperwork back here at the office and it becomes time for us to send you along your very first client, what will happen is we'll usually send you a text message, we'll give you a call if we've got time. But the other thing we'll do is send you out a new parcel in the post. This time, it will contain 4 separate things. The first thing will be a bunch of blank paper with company letterhead for you to write to your student's teacher once a month. Now the other thing that you'll find in here are a bunch of timesheets. We usually send you out at least 1 term's worth of timesheets. So remember, 1 timesheet per week that you will remember to submit on time, won't you? Thank you. The other thing that you'll receive in this package are a bunch of these little contact cards. Double-sided, pretty cool. You can put your own, there you go, personal details on there and leave that with your client. We get calls from clients sometimes who will ask us to relay a message through the tutor, and when we say, well, don't you have the tutor's direct number, often they'll say, no, the tutor didn't give me the number. So these contact cards are the perfect solution for that problem. Now the other thing that you'll find in that envelope are some of these little iron-on logos. So you can iron that directly onto the shirt of your choosing. Saves us from having to measure you up for a uniform. You can choose whatever shirt you want, iron on the logo. You might also want to stitch it on as well, just to be sure, because apparently if you wash them over and over and over again, eventually they can fall off. So a few stitches here and there might secure it to the shirt as well. So otherwise, that's everything that you receive when we send you out your very first student. Okay, so now at this point, the most frequently asked question that tutors will want to ask of me is, well, firstly, two questions. Uh, how long will it take until I get my first student? And also, how many students am I likely to get? Now, the answer to these questions varies a little bit. Firstly, it depends on time of year. There are certain times of year where we get a far bigger demand than other times, especially when report cards have just come home or when certain major assessment tasks are coming up. Usually, look, it varies a lot. I'll give you an example of the best case scenario and the worst case scenario that we've experienced so far. The best case scenario, there was a new grad teacher who she was willing to teach both high school and primary school. She was an English teacher, and she was in the Sutherland Shire of Sydney and started with us the beginning of term 3, just after report cards had gone home. Now, by the time we got her paperwork here and everything was cleared, by the time she was ready to go, we had 5 new students lined up for her the very first week. So that was probably the best case scenario we've had so far. The worst case scenario I can think of was a chemistry tutor who was a university academic. He wasn't a qualified teacher, and he was in the Mount Druitt area of Western Sydney, who would only teach senior chemistry and only on Saturday and Sunday mornings. So that was very, very restrictive. I think that was about 2 or 3 months ago, and we still haven't been able to line him up with any students yet. So the answer is, it depends on how available you are, whether you're willing to teach primary and high school, and which subjects you can teach. If you're happy to do primary and high school, you'll get more students. If you are available more days, you're more likely to get more students. If you're willing to teach subjects, maths and English, you'll get more students. So it depends on you, depends on the area, depends on the time of year. I would say a rough average, if I had to give an average, I'd say the average time it takes to get the first student is somewhere between maybe 2 to 4, sometimes up to 5 weeks from the time you get your paperwork back, if it's a slow time of year. The average number of students that people get, I would say that on average, by the time they receive their first student, most tutors are completely booked out within about a term. So by the end of the term, you'll probably have so many students that you don't have time to take on anymore. That's average, but it depends on those circumstances, so keep that in mind. Okay, so in terms of how does pay work, you don't need to collect money directly from the client. We debit the client's credit card directly. The way that it works is we pay you each Monday morning, so you receive an email with an electronic payslip, and depending on who you bank with, you'll receive the funds in your account either Monday or Tuesday, sometimes a day later if it's a public holiday on the Monday, but otherwise that's how it works. In terms of superannuation, we create a new fund for you through Australian Super, but if you've got a particular fund that you would like us to make contributions to, just remember to include the details on your employment contract. Now here's one little thing that can sometimes get a little bit confusing for some tutors, so I thought I'd include this in the video as well. When it comes to contacting us here at the office, if you've been emailing us so far, you probably would have been emailing us at the applications email address, which is the email address that we correspond with new applicants. Once, however, you join our team and become one of our tutors, the best email address to contact us through is tutors@topoftheclass.com.au. That's the email address that we check every day and respond and receive inquiries from our tutors. The only other email address that you'll need to know is when you submit your timesheets. Submit your timesheets to timesheets@topoftheclass.com.au. Okay, we only check that email address usually once a week on Sunday night when we're processing the timesheets. So for inquiries, remember tutors@topoftheclass.com.au is the email address to correspond with us to. If you'd like to contact me directly or in a hurry, the best way is always just call my mobile directly. You can call me any time of day. I might not necessarily answer the phone straight away, but if you leave me a text message or a voicemail message, I will get back to you shortly. If you send an email and you're not getting a response fast enough, call my mobile directly. That's the fastest way to get through if it's urgent. Well, look, that's pretty much it. I hope that this all makes a lot more sense to you now, and I hope that you feel excited about joining our team as well. Good luck with the assessment quiz below. Before you get started though, there's just one last little thing that I'd like for you to keep in mind. A lot of the things that we have looked at so far, I guess you could probably describe as just little things, spending 30 seconds before each lesson to touch base with the client, spending 2 minutes at the end of each lesson to communicate progress to the client, spending a few minutes at the end of each month to write to the student's teacher, and then spending a few minutes again at the end of each term to write progress reports. All these little things can often be overlooked as just little things, but the thing that I'd like you to remember is that big changes are usually actually the consistent accumulation of little changes all put together, making a big impact then. requires remembering to put all those little things together as well. In fact, big problems are often really the consistent accumulation of little problems that have all gone overlooked. So the point I'm making is this: never overlook the little things, because it's when all the little things are put together, that's when we can help to make the biggest difference. Good luck with the assessment quiz. I look forward to speaking to you soon.